talking to my mom. She's like, "Are you addicted to like getting out and getting people into the outdoors?" And I'm like, "Hey, I think I got a problem." You know,
You made it.
what's up? What's up? Yes.
Beyond tickled about this. I have mine. Are you ready for yours?
Bam.
All right. See, we're supposed to like pop the tops together, but you're.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well,
I don't drink out of cans. You know.
And cans are what's only allowed at your upcoming events. What like?
Yeah. So I mean, we don't do glass, but everybody has a cup. Everybody has a cup.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
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 That's a good one.
And I have the great pleasure of interviewing you.
Thank you. So glad to be here. And thank you for the opportunity of just, being able to chop it up with you guys.
We appreciate it. So before we kick off our interview, I thought I would give the audience a little bit of context. So I dug into the history of Instagram and looked up the very first time I sent you guys a message. And it was the same day as the Jedi event for the Becca Sue Klein All Kids Fish event in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, in the beautiful Piedmont Park. Yep, I got to meet you and your boys. I remember your eldest son the most, but it was a true pleasure watching you work during the interview after the event, watching you do the casting demonstrations, and just seeing so many children look up to you during that event. Tell me a little bit about what you recall from that event.
So we do all things outdoors, and I would say at that time, fly fishing was probably the least of what I was, of my experience. And so when I was invited to do the casting, I was like, me? Why? I wouldn't choose me. But okay, let me practice and make sure and have my, and as an educator, 23-year veteran in education. And so I have to have a thought out method or process that is easy and able. So that was probably the hardest thing, like what I was going to, do to go through the steps that people could walk away with. And so I just remember being nervous. I don't remember anybody there. I remember my buddy Devin from from Orvis, Atlanta. But other than that, and Becca was there, you were there. I remember you at the end because they pulled me to the side and they were interviewing everybody at the end. And so, it was all a dream. So it was cool.
Yeah. When the event wrapped up, it was great to dive into your Instagram and then see a lot of the posts and learn more about exactly the organization that you have created. So with that, how about you give me a little bit of the background? You've already given us a little taste test, and tell me what actually led to your fly fishing adventures.
Oh man, fly fishing. So I used to work at the Patagonia Buckhead location. Now I think it's now called Patagonia Atlanta. It's the one at Buckhead. And I used to work at that store. I worked there for 11 years and I learned so much about just product. We were always doing training on product knowledge. And, I really got to know the people that were there. And we were all involved in different things across the board in outdoor adventure. And so one of the things that they were involved in, and it was funny because, like, for example, everybody was involved in climbing. So there was a whole bunch of climbers there. And I'm like, all right, let me go get some climbing shoes and a chop bag. And okay, I'll do some bouldering. And then, all right, I get a harness. But I'm not doing outdoors. I'm just going to I'm going to start with indoor climbing. And so then that was something that we had a bond over. And then everyone started talking about fly fishing. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to get a fly rod. And I'm like, shoot, these things are expensive. So how am I going to get my hands on a fly rod? I got to figure out how to get my hands on that. We have waders, but at the time we didn't have fly rods. So on my lunch break, I went over to the Orvis shop and I met those guys and they had this thing called the 101. And so I took that. And the next day they had the 201. And at that 101, they were like, oh, we're sold out. We're not going to be able to, and they were telling other people we're sold out for the 201. And at the end, they were like, hey, listen, man, we know you're in the industry. So if you want to just pull up, we'll make a space for you. We'll get you in the 201. And I'm like, yes, let's go. So showed up the very next day to the 201. And at the end, one of the guys, I think the assistant manager of the store at that time, he was like, hey, man, just you can just hold on to that rod and reel if you want. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And it was a Clearwater. I think it was a Hydros reel. And he was just like, just hold on. It was a 4-weight. Just hold on to it. For the longest time, I thought it was a 5-weight. But one day I just like turned it over and looked on the side of it. I was like, oh, this is a 4. But anyway, like I just remember him just wanting to help me out. And he just said, hey, take the rod, get out, cast, practice in the grass. Don't mess up my line. But, get out there and just have a good time and just start getting on the water. And so I think every few months, like I think that year I probably went twice, And so the next year, maybe 2 or 3 more. But everybody at the Patagonia store, they were like, oh man, you got a fly rod. We need to go. We need to, And so we finally just slowly started doing more and more. And then my boys were like, oh, we want to learn. And they were getting bigger. So I was like using this rod. And then I'm like, okay, your turn, because we had one rod between the 3 of us. And so I think just over time, we just continued. And then we got some Tenkara rods. And it was a long, a few years. And then we got invited. We came up with this concept with myself and 4 other Black men. And we came up with this project to do the Blackwaters film. And so when that happened, a lot of the things were sponsored. And so I was able to obtain some better rods. And I think Orvis gave me 2 rods. And then I was like, it's 3 of us. We got 3 rods. We're good. And so that's when we started, man, fishing like 3 to 5 times a week during the summer. Summer's off. I'm an educator, like I said. And so that just kind of opened it up. And so that's how we slowly got into it. And that's probably over like, I would say 3 or 4 years of time.
You've got 2 decades worth of passion in the music and education areas. So how was that pivot in conjunction with the creation of Outdoor Gear and Beer?
Yeah. So, oh man, it's almost like 2 different worlds. And to be clear, like I haven't left education. I think I have like 8 or 9 years left. I'm not, I'm going to finish that thing out and retire. So I'll tell you how Outdoor Gear and Beer, the inception of Outdoor Gear and Beer. We were sitting around the house in Orlando several years ago. I think it was 2017, 16, something like that. We were sitting around Thanksgiving, and my brother was like, man, so much outdoor stuff, man. You need to like do YouTube or do some kind of social media. This stuff is blowing up. You gotta do something where you can like tell people about this stuff. And then he was like, or you could just take a bunch of pictures and, write these narratives and do this Instagram thing that's that's been on this upswing. And I'm like, well, I just don't know what I would call it though. Like, I just, don't know how I would get into that realm of coming up with a catchy name. And my wife was sitting over to the side and she looked up and said, you should call it Outdoor Gear and Beer. And my brother, he's a graphic designer. He was like, and I have 2 brothers. I'm a triplet, by the way. I don't know if I said that earlier, but he was like, oh my gosh, nah, that's gone. That's gone. But look it up. And so opened up Instagram, went in, typed in Outdoor Gear and Beer, tried to create an account, and it went through. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I leaned over and took a picture of a beer and posted it. And that was the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's just how it became like an Instagram handle, if you will. But I think over time, we slowly started to get opportunities where, and again, as a educator who doesn't have the deepest pockets, I just didn't want to always have to dip into our financials to buy this pack or buy these waiters or get this. And then my wife is like, oh my gosh, man, so it's always that kind of thing where I was like, well, if we can, work this business or this handle in a way to where we can get companies to work with us, and then they can, help us or help me with my passions and do these outdoor things where I don't have to pay for all these things. And then slowly, I think what happened was REI invited me to speak at this huge event outside the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And there were so many people there. And at the very end, when people were getting paid for their service for their time, everyone was like, so and so LLC and this nonprofit, like all these businesses. And they looked at me and I was like, Nick Brooks. And I just felt this sense of people just like, what? Like people just looking at me like, So right then I went home and got the EIN LLC up, we turned it into a business right then. So that's kind of the history of that. And then it's slowly, like I said, taking pictures and wanted people to see what we were doing we had a brewery reach out to us and say, man, we would love it if you would just take us camping. We have an idea. It was Reformation Brewing. And they reached out. We took them camping. And at the end, it was like 7 or 8 of them. And at the end, they were like, oh my gosh, listen, you have to do a camp out. We're help sponsor it. We're do this. And there was all these, we started to see so much support behind what we were doing. And over time, it turned into every opportunity that we had where we were in front of people was always education based. Like I said earlier, like we're trying to think of these methods. We were printing off different manipulatives or different sheets that people could walk away with and things like laminating them so they can last. All these types of things as an educator that is just natural for myself and my wife that's kind of like, it just completely changed. And that's what we started to do as a business.
I'm intrigued about nothing sets you on fire than that little bit of pressure. So for you to go home and immediately start checking boxes and getting to-do lists done and getting created, I mean, that's pretty amazing. You spoke a little bit about how...
Hold on. Beer check if you can.
That was a baby sip.
There you go.
What would you wish more outdoor brands understood about the, if you want to call it, cultural intersections that you're creating?
Oh man, that's a huge question.
For example, Heather had made mention earlier today about one of the Seattle magazine's first, potentially, in her recollection, we haven't researched it yet, but there is a Black male on the cover of that magazine.
Oh, got it. All right, let's go.
So
listen. So here's the deal. I think marketing plays just a huge factor in this. It was funny. I was talking to Amanda. My wife's name is Amanda. I was talking to her the other day, like just 3-4 days ago. I was like, man, I just remember growing up looking at like National Geographic, and I'm not trying to I don't want to say these names and like, these aren't bow and arrow. I'm not firing shots, but there were all these different outdoor brands that had so much adventure for a young child like myself looking at this like, man, this is freaking amazing. There's somebody hanging on the side of a mountain. I don't know if I would do that, but that is dope. That is cool. Oh man, this person is. And so my dad did all the things. He was a climber, alpinist, right? Like mountaineering. We had a sailboat growing up. He would do whitewater kayaking. And we would go out to like on Nantahala, right? North Carolina. Mm-hmm. We would go out there and he would say, hold the dog. And he would do a run and we'd be like, daddy. Like, this is dope. This is the coolest thing I've seen. But like, we always saw like in advertising, I guess, or in magazines or films and stuff like that. They never looked like me, right? Like they never looked like me. And I'm like, I never thought about that until I got older because that never stopped us, right? Like we just always did the things, and my dad took us all over the Southeast doing these things outdoors and all these different types of things. But, I just wish, and I feel like there's a slow turn, like things are starting to, change, but I wish that there were more brands that were like direct, like strongly, like just intentional about diversifying or, making it marketing to everyone with the notion that the outdoors is for everyone.
Yes.
Because when I was growing up, I would just see a white dude, on the side of a mountain, doing something dope, of course, but like I never thought until I got older, like, man, this is like I never saw myself in those pictures. And so I just, leave it at that.
Understood. Your dad was a huge role model, and yes,
Yeah.
yes. And when you would go on these adventures with your brothers, and you were 100% engaged and consumed, tell me about the response when you came back and you were sharing this with your friends. What did they think? What did they envision? What did they say? And how did that lead you into where you are today?
Well, as a child, I guess, everybody in the hood looked at him like he was a hero. Like y'all did what? That's cool. That's different. We never, what? I've never heard, I've never seen. How does that work? Like all the questions. But we did a lot of like, we were wild at heart. We always looked for adventure. My dad had horses. He grew up in Alabama, Tuskegee. And so, yep. And so growing up in Decatur, when I was growing up in Decatur, he still had horses south of the city. And we would go out and we would ride them. And I don't know how, he's an Eagle Scout, very, he did search and rescue through civil air patrol. He was pretty sharp with the map. And I don't know how he figured this out, but we would go all the way out south of the city, I think east of McDonough, right? We would go out there and we would get on the horses and ride them back to the house, back to Decatur. Yeah. Off of 285 and 20. Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah. We would and so riding through the woods, through thick kudzu, like all this kind of stuff and creeks and stuff like that. And then we would turn around and go back. And so that was an adventure, right? Like that in my mind, I was like, man, this is awesome. And I never I don't feel like anybody looked at us like, man, y'all are crazy, or what is that? We don't do that kind of, I don't know. But it wasn't until I got to college where I would want to go out and do some of these types of things and camping and day hikes and just go down and play in the creek and stuff like that. Where my friends who were Black that looked like me, they were like, oh man, what? We don't do that. What are you talking about? Nah, man, that's, and so it wasn't until then where I started to realize there's I guess a dividing line there or of perception that is something that is only meant for one, part of our population, if you will. That's when you're in your late teens, early 20s, but when you double that number and you become much older, I don't know, I just feel like as a further into my adulthood, I just wanted to influence that and get people who thought that wasn't for us to get them to see or to explore that as well. And in some kind of way, figure out how to communicate to them in a way that it's a place where we can be out there and recreate safely or be safe in the outdoors. So,
Excusez-moi.
Yeah, that's why I don't drink out of cans.
You think it has to do with the can part?
100%. So listen, when you pour it into a glass, it kind of aerates it a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you pour it, not heavy and strong, you can, but if you pour it in a way to where you get a head, get some foam on it, that's the the beer in some ways kind of just airing out. I saw this
breathing.
Yeah. And I saw this video where this guy poured the beer real slow into the glass. No foam on it.
Right.
And he poured the other one just kind of a little bit more aggressively. And there's a thick foam. He took a pretzel and stuck it in the one that had foam and nothing really happened.
Okay.
frothed up a little bit. And then the other one, he took a pretzel stick and stuck it in, and it just rumbled all over. And so imagine going to a bar, having a hamburger, some salty foods, and then drinking a beer, and that same reaction happening in your stomach. The bubbles. Yeah. Yeah. And then imagine, like, if you pour it in a glass, you're not going to be as bloated. You're not going to,
Well, I learned a lot more than I expected on that one.
Yeah. Put that in.
And that's a question.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Just think about it. Because, like, sometimes we go to different breweries where the person pouring hasn't been trained properly in how to pour a beer, and they tilt it sideways and they just let it, cascade down the glass, and they give you one with a flat head. Oh, I'm like, I almost want to ask, can I come back there and pour it? I want at least this much of a.
It's so interesting. I was at a spot this past weekend, and this guy just like poured it in there, and he had a decent sized amount of foam, and the bartenders were giving him so much grief about it. And obviously, he knew something that they didn't know.
Well, I don't know if it's like this much foam.
Yeah, not that much. So we're not going to be blank.
But if it's a few inches, if it's a couple inches on it, I'm like, yes, thank you, great pour.
Good to know. And that is because I do prefer to have my beer in a nice ice cold glass. Whatever. You talk about how you didn't see a space where you were represented. Can you tell me about a time during one of the events that you've hosted with Outdoor Gear and Beer where you've been able to create that environment for someone and kind of see a bit of that spark or that connection, that click to where they're seeing it because you have helped to create this space? Tell me a little something.
I'll tell you this, and I'll just tell you about, matter of fact, we have a camp out coming up. It's called Unplugged, November 7th through the 9th. It's in Blue Ridge, Georgia, at Morganton Point. And we have people, and let me tell you about the camp first. So it's education-based. REI is one of our partners, and we have other partners as well. But what ends up happening with all our partners, when you come to the table or come to the camp area, you end up, all you really need is your sleeping bag, because we have tents, we have cots, we have sleeping pads, we have camp chairs, camp stoves. We do all the cooking, but we also provide camp stoves for people that want to bring their own things and do a little extra, things. We have a commemorative hoodie, if you will, that my brother, he designs. And so we've done about 4 or 5 of them now, and there are people who have like all 4 of them. There's a handful of them. And so they're like, man, I can't wait to the next one. Can you tell me like a little bit earlier in advance so I can plan for it or make sure that I'm there? And we're starting to have people plan and want to be there. Now, as I was saying before, a lot of these people have never camped before or haven't camped since they were like in their childhood and in their youth and much younger. So to be clear, our focus is Black and BIPOC. However, we do, it's an open door policy. Anyone who wants to join us can. Our preference is that we have people of color or people who have not had the opportunity to be in the outdoors, that our hope is that they're able to register and get spots first before other people take the spots. But it's open for everybody. And when everyone comes, we don't want anyone to feel ostracized or anything like that. But it's strongly education based. And so from how to set up a tent, how to start a fire, safety in the outdoors with like first aid, how to cook in the outdoors. We have a cooking demo that my wife and I that we do, and I would say that the cooking and the hoodie and the beer, we always have a beer sponsor. Actually, all of our events, and we get invited to like participate in other events. We don't with other brands. We don't beer sponsor those, but when we have our own events, we always have a beer sponsor for our events. We have a paddle trip coming up on the 13th of September, and we have a beer sponsor for that. And we're doing, I think we're doing cilantro lime tacos for that. So there's going to be a nice beer pairing. We're probably going to have some nice lagers. Creature Comfort is the beer sponsor for that. As people come out and they start, you see the picture that we just painted on what the camp out is like and the type of things that take place. And we do games and stuff like that. But when people start to feel safe and they see other people that look like them coming to these events, and the crazy thing is that they turn around and then they start going to other events and creating their own opportunities with their friends and family, going camping and hiking and stuff like that. When they come back and they tell us that's when it's like, oh man, this is awesome.
Nice. Oh, I love that. That's when it goes full circle.
And they keep coming back, right? Like I said, they have 3 or 4, different hoodies. I can't, like, we already have a color for this fall. I want to tell you the color. The first one was gray. It was okay. The next one, I think we did red. And then the last one that we did this past spring was this nice bold blue. But this one is going to be like a fall color. So I can't say it yet. I want to. Okay. But yeah, if you participate.
Folks, you got to show up to find out. That's what we're going to say. What does responsible representation look like to you as a Black African-American leader in the outdoor industry?
Ooh, that's a tough. Well, y'all are coming with the heavy hitters. I just think I heard an organization that I worked with a couple years ago. Name of it is Outdoors for All. What's the name of the organization and the event? And just like thinking back on just that, Outdoors for All. And as far as representation, it's just simply that. Like, why not us? Why not everybody? It's the Outdoors is for all, regardless of what we've seen through different marketing. Like when I'm driving down 75 through the city and I see an ad and it's a white gentleman standing on top of a mountain, or I go down, on 285 and I see another ad where, and I just don't see myself. Well, the Outdoors is for all. And so I just think that narrative is our passion. I think that is what we want to influence. And I know in the Atlanta area that, and it's not just myself, and we don't feel alone with this. We actually feel that there are a lot of organizations that are doing it, and actually better than we are. And so it's really cool to partner or labor alongside these other organizations in the Atlanta area and across the country, of people from women to Black, BIPOC, everyone, just making this outdoor space accessible and making it a space where anyone can go out and feel safe in the outdoors, and not feel like it just belongs to a certain people or a certain person or, demographic or whatnot.
Yeah. That is a really good segue into the film that you and your partners got together and created, Blackwater's Film. And why don't you give us a sneak peek into what that's about? Because I will say that was one of the most powerful posters. It was a gorgeous film poster. And then I've heard that there's a bit of a spin on that, if I am correct, with the female representation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so please tell our audience a little bit about what's been done, what's the next step, what you away from this. Okay.
Man, and it's so the wildest part, there's pressure with this because I want to represent everyone the right way. I know I'm gonna miss something. I know Chad's gonna be like, "Hey, brother, man, I wish you said," but listen, Five Black. So a couple years ago, Outdoors for All Summit, if you will, that we were all together, black and other BIPOC leaders, and just people, everyone was represented, every people group, everyone, indigenous, white, males, female, like everyone was there, every pronoun, every person was represented. And so at this event, and it was outside of Asheville, it was in Old Fort, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. We were at this event, and there were sessions like talks, there were activities, different events, and man, there was so many types of things going on. People just hanging out, pouring into each other, loving on each other, commiserating, like just building community with Black and BIPOC leaders across the allies, like everybody across the country in this space. And there was this one opportunity where we had to go fly fishing. And so, like I said, there was hiking, climbing, mountain biking, so many different things going on. And we went fly fishing. And when I got out there, it was myself and four other Black gentlemen, and we were all fishing together. And at one point, I remember looking back, I was probably, being from the city, I don't know, I was just always like looking around and, checking out the environment. And we were down from this road. And I remember looking up at the road, and there was someone leaning out the car, and they were taking pictures of us. And we're like, what are they doing? And so we didn't know whether or not to be annoyed, we just kind of like questioned like what was happening. Mm-hmm. And from that discussion, one of the brothers that was also in the film, he said, you know what, we should shoot a, that ended up being in the film. He said, man, we should shoot a film. And from that, we were like, yeah, man, wouldn't that be awesome if we shot a film? We should go to the wildest place in America, something that like people would not believe that five Black guys would go to a place like this. We should just find the wildest place. And I remember just thinking, man, I like play on words and stuff. And I was like, oh man, we should call it Black Waters. And so if you don't know, like south of Macon, you have like cypress trees and things like that. And the leaves exfoliate down into the water, and the leaves breaking down kind of taints the water to like Blackwater rivers. And so Blackwater is kind of like a slang type of term for the water is not clear. It's a darker color. And so I was like, I remember learning that in the 5th grade or when I was younger. And I was like, oh man, we should call it Blackwater. It's like I've been waiting to use that term. And so we should call it Blackwater. And they were like, oh man, we're onto something. And we were all coming up with different ideas. And so right there, we started to plan and to put everything together. And it was actually in downtown Old Fort. There's a river that goes through. I think it's the Curtis. I think that's the name of it. I know the Curtis is in the area, and Old Fort sits in the Pisgah National Forest, but I think it's the Curtis Creek. We were actually standing in that creek, and that was where the first picture was. And that's the picture on the front of the film. While we were fishing, another thing that was brought up was like, a lot of the guys were like, man, I've never fished. This is like the first time that I fished with this many Black men on the water. And so a little bit different experience for me being in Atlanta when we were coming up with this concept. That was one of the most moving things that, a lot of us hadn't fished with this many Black men. We have other friends that are ours that are white that we go fishing with, but like we've never had that type of experience collectively at that level with 5 Black men. And so from that point, every time, and once we did our film, by the way, whenever we go into a town, and we ended up getting a grant through the National Park Service, James Edward Mills was a part of making that happen. When we got that grant to help support the film tour, whenever we would go into a town, we always wanted to have like a Black or BIPOC focus in that community to engage with them and get them into fly fishing. And so again, open door still, but that was our main focus of people that we wanted to get, fly fishing. So it was just really cool. We went to so many towns or so many cities. We flew so many places. And so not only did we have the film screening, but we also would go back, have a film discussion, panel discussion, and then the next day we would go and get people out on the water. And so that was the tour. So it's more like if you can watch it, and I hope that, man, this film like lives on forever. It's on the Outside Magazine film portal. You can still find it there, but I think it was a bigger thing to be at one of the places on the tour where you can sit and listen to these brothers that were in the film and listen to them talk. I jokingly say to them, I was the main character of the film, but these guys that are in the film, they have what they share about themselves was just very impactful. And so it's worth watching.
And also worth attending. Are you guys going to have more tours in the future?
Oh, the tour has come to an end. It was kind of cool because Atlanta was one of the places, and then we ended. And I like to say that Atlanta was probably like the biggest. We had the first time we came to Atlanta, we had two venues. REI was one. They both sold out. We had a Black men's fishing event. It was a big turnout. It was such a huge impact across the city. And then we ended back in Atlanta on the south side down in Clayton County. And we ended up having closing out the tour down there. And that was really cool as well. And we had some big time allies and other people to come in and help support and get people out on the water and get them casting as well.
That's beautiful. I didn't know about the additional bonus features, I guess you could say, about the almost, I guess, like the panel discussion, maybe.
Yeah.
Panel. Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool because like there's so much. It's a feature film, right? So it's like 43 minutes in length. It's not like a 2-hour movie or anything like that. But I think there was so much more depth that we could go into, almost like what we're talking about now and how we're engaging. But there was so much more depth to that, and it was all like specific to the communities because everybody, we let people ask questions. There was not one part of the tour that was the same.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. Oh man, it was cool. And so, and you asked, so there's another, so Chad Brown was the producer. Shout out to Chad Brown. And so after that, what ended up happening is Chad came up with another idea to have a film. And the name of that film is Mother. I hear it's just as impactful and pretty powerful as well.
Beautiful. Well, you've got a great group of guys that are helping.
And I don't know if I said it, but it's about women. Like it's 5 women.
Yes.
Did I say that?
No, you did not. I knew that.
Okay. Yes, folks. It's 5 women and it's a fly fishing. And I want to go to say like it's a mirror, of Black Waters, but it is, I would assume, in that same vein of just wanting, Chad in particular, wanting people to see a variety of different people or
the diversity
of people, recreating in the outdoors responsibly.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some strong angling females in that film. And so it's...
Oh, yeah. Yes, there are.
Yes, there are. I know one more than the other, and she is a powerhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Awkward.
Okay.
Yes, sir. When your sons grow up, what do you hope that they will say about their dad's role in changing the outdoor landscape?
Man. I don't think they will probably see that I had a role, but I think that they would feel like they partnered with me in that. Because where you see me, if you see me like in my post, one of my sons is, they oh man. Yeah. Yeah, they would. Man, what y'all doing up in here, man? Yeah,
I will say real quickly that I have seen your involvement with being a scoutmaster in helping your children to excel and be good stewards, be beautiful human beings. For them to have the grandfather hero that they've had, and then to have you in their generation to change the landscape and to help pave the way and make it a smoother path, a path that's so much more welcoming. I know that I'm supposed to be asking you this question, but I think that what you're doing is, you and your guys, I think you guys are magnificent. I think it's beautiful. I really
Yeah,
do.
thank you. I mean, I think they're probably remember, and I think they know, like, it's just not me. I'm not alone in this passion. When we really think about it, this is not a new thing for Black people. Like, we've been in the outdoors, and recreating in the outdoors for a very long time. I think that where we miss that perception is that it's just not seen, it's not marketed, right? Like,
Mhm.
to the play on, the name of this project, right? Um, but I think that we are about the business of helping everyone see that we're out here and we've been out here.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's the coolest thing. And my boys are a part of that work also. Now,
Mhm.
they don't realize it. Man, do I have to? Oh my God. So my wife got me a drone a couple years ago. Oh man, that thing is so expensive. My boys are gamers. I don't know how to fly my own drone. My boys do. And they're gamers. I'm like, here, man, like, fly. And so let's talk about how this works, or how this is. And my oldest in particular, they would both fly the drone. And I think when they were younger, my older son, he was more aware of, more skilled in flying it. And then he ended up going into high school. And when he got to high school, you have what's called Atlanta public school system. You have this thing called pathways, where you have a particular focus. And then when you graduate, if you've stayed in it for a certain amount of years, you end up having, it's almost an attachment on your diploma. And so my oldest son, he had two pathways. One of them was music, of course. The other one was film and photography. So yeah, yeah. And so, and I think that's from hold the camera. Hey, listen, I'm gonna walk over here and then come back over here. I want you to, like, real talk. If you see me, one of my boys, it's not anybody else. It's one of my boys, sometimes my wife. It's one of them holding the camera or doing something, or just, when we have events here, hey man, here's the camera, I'm gonna go over here. And the next thing you know, my oldest is click, 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 just getting. And so now he has these extra things on his high school diploma, and he's going to college. Alabama A&M, HBCU, the Bulldogs. He's on the Hill in Huntsville, and he's going to school for forestry. And he did an internship, which, by the way, he is an Eagle Scout. And when he got there, just having that under his belt, just all the things that came with that, have really helped him, from how he presented himself, how he applied for apprenticeship, how when he got there, everything that came with it. From, like, one day they were out fishing or something, and he was like, oh, I'm going to bring a fly rod. Everyone else had nets that they were he was out there finessing his cast and doing all this kind of stuff and catching fish and stuff. And everyone was looking at him like, whoa, what is this? What is he? He was out there in waders and Orbis Pro, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, bro, don't be out here flexing too much. But, it's all so natural, because they don't know. We try to keep them grounded and let them know, like, hey man, this ain't normal for you to be wearing all this, kind of stuff. That we've been able to work with different brands and been fortunate enough to be sponsored with different things and stuff. But that is also, like, become a vehicle for his passion, which he's now living out, And so, scholarship recipient, going to school for forestry. His focus is going to be in wildlife. And so, it's just kind of cool to see that he also, and one of the things that they did in their internship or apprenticeship was some drone work. And he was like, oh, I've never done that. I mean, it's just really cool just to see how outdoor gear and beer has impacted him in particular. And my youngest is the same thing. I mean, he's kind of quiet about it all, but he's a sharp guy. He's more of an aquatic. He likes the ocean, stuff like that. So we've done a lot of open water kayaking events through Scouts with him. Yeah, they're both pretty cool. So I look forward to see how all of this with outdoor gear and beer impacts him. He's pretty fond of the sciences as well and the outdoors. So
Well, maybe one of the upcoming events that you could add to your calendar may be some saltwater opportunities for maybe some redfish,
all right.
maybe some tarpon, some of the bonefish like up here,
Man, listen.
a little bit of that over there, which is the mystery fish in my book. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. we were at this Scout campus, high adventure campus called Seabase. It's down in the Florida Keys. And we were down there, not this past summer, but the summer before. And so we're down there and we go several miles out and we camp out on this island for the week and we're fishing and snorkeling and doing all these things for a full week. After it's over, we come back to like the main base or the main area before we're about to get on the plane and fly out. And so there's a dock. I know, you typically try not to, fish around docks and stuff. Or at least I try not to. But there were these tarpon that were rolling and they were just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to hook up on one of these. Man, I hooked up. But that thing jumped off the hook, got off. I was like, oh man, it was huge. And so fast forward this past fall, I guess almost a year ago, we go to Puerto Rico, family trip. And my oldest and I, we go on this guided fishing tour, what a trip. And we get out there and we're both casting fly rods and stuff. And my son puts his down. He's like, man, let me just try this regular conventional. Bam, hooks up on one. And that thing was huge, man. It was like, he was afraid to touch it. And the guy was like, no, bro, this is going down. Like, you're taking this thing. And I have that picture. I should frame that thing. It's like a good memory that the two of us have together.
How can people support you and Outdoor Gear and Beer or the broader movement for equality in fly fishing?
I guess just get the word out of who we are, what we do as a business. And I would love to visit your town. I would love to get opportunities to speak and support you in the mission if it's similar to what we have or to our passion, to be able to partner. Yeah.
To add to that question, you had made mention about, for example, the Unplugged Fall event. Your team has everything included. You just bring your sleeping bag, some of your personal items, like a lunch, etc. A very small list of things to bring yourself. Are there opportunities for individuals to kind of sponsor, per se, like pay for a spot for someone that?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And we actually have that. Like that takes place. Right now, it's just to save the date, but I think in the next few days, we're going to actually make it live. And when it becomes live, if you want to reach out to us, outdoorgearandbeer@gmail.com. You can reach out to us. We have a lot of brands that from Sawyer to, we've had a lot of brands that, different breweries that want to, we're paid for 3 spots or we're paid for, or here's this, or, like they make it possible for other people to come. So Sawyer in particular is one of our closest relationships that we have in the outdoor industry that we have. Gossamer Gear is another one. We love those guys. They have been around both of those from day one when we started out, when we became an official business, and they partnered with us before we were legit. So, but yeah, just stay tuned. I would say probably by the time this thing comes live, have our event live. And if you reach out to us and would like to support in any kind of way, then that would be beneficial to our reach of people.
Wonderful. We'll make sure that we get those links in our posting so that people can access you guys from a variety of ways. So thank you. Are there any organizations or groups that you'd like to highlight? And how can our audience support them or contact them?
Black Outside. Black Outside is an organization out of San Antonio, Texas. And they focus on Black urban youth and getting them into the outdoors. It's a magnificent program. They're doing some amazing things in the San Antonio area. Alex Bailey, the founder and CEO of Black Outside, is actually he's part of the talent in Blackwater. So really gotten to know that brother the past few years. He's a little brother. He's a little bit younger than, well, a lot younger than myself. Great to have around, life of the party. You can tell that he works with youth. Great spirit, real genuine, amazing organization. They have some great programming and things that they do within their community and the places that they take their youth. They had a trip this summer. Actually, my oldest son got to help as an assistant guide and help lead that trip, where they went up to the Colorado Rockies for a week. The youth in Black Outside and of course, the adult leaders, and I guess since my son is now 18, he's one of those. But he got to go up there and just see everything that Alex and the crew is doing. And oh man, there was another time a couple years ago where they invited us. They actually flew my son out, and then I flew out with him, and we helped this. It was this fly fishing event that we did, and we went out on the Guadalupe River. And so, yeah, it was amazing. And that was my oldest son's first opportunity. He was so nervous, like, oh, I don't know how this is going to be. What's this going to be like? He was the only one that was getting kids on fish. Yeah. Like all the other adults, we were out, everyone had a blast. We came back with dry flies pretty much and dry hooks. And, my son had gotten a couple kids on fish. And so that was really cool. Joy Trip Project is another one. That's James Edward Mills. He is a writer, author, producer. And so he is a fantastic storyteller. And so that's a gentleman. Dudley Edmondson is a book author, and he has a lot of great, he has a couple books out. He's on film tour, amazing birder. Like he's the guy, he shot the film, and he would hear, you would, oh, that's like such and such a wobbler and I'm like, man, I don't know how he travels. He's a speaker. Jamaica Dawes, Slim Pickens Outfitter, down in Texas as well. His business, really cool shop if you're down outside of the Dallas, Fort Worth area. Chad Brown, the man, the myth, the legend, he's just doing some amazing things in the Portland area as well. So one more name out there, okay. Austin Campbell. I don't know if you guys know that brother. Austin Campbell, his business is community fly fishing. African-American Black guy. He is a fantastic guide. He's out of the Denver area in Colorado. Just last month, we had the opportunity, myself and another gentleman, we went up and we went fly fishing. We did the Taylor, we did the Gunnison, we did Rio, yeah, Three Forks, something like that. Yeah, we drove all over the southern part of Colorado and had the heck of a time. And he know this guy, he's savage with it. He's awesome. Yeah, great spirit, genuine. Yeah, and he actually just got back last week. They were in the Bahamas, and he was out there working with the youth, teaching them how to fly fish. And so through his business. So, yeah, I would definitely check them out as well. And check him out as well if you're in the Denver area or traveling through Denver. Reach out to Austin Campbell. Those are the heavy hitters.
What do you want to see more of in fly fishing, and who are you inviting to the river?
What do I want to see more of? I'll tell you this. When, growing up, or when I was much younger, I always thought, and this is just an ignorant concept of myself, I would have to admit, I always thought that fly fishing was like, I guess specific to like older white men, where they would have those glasses that hang down here and kind of attach like this. And then they have the vest with all the flies and the waiter up here. I think there's so much more to it than that perception of closed-minded perception that I had of fly fishing. where we're seeing women, we're seeing people of color out here getting on the water, and just I guess a continuation of seeing that. I think it's really cool to have people in urban spaces also finding water, from small creeks to flat water like ponds and little lakes and stuff like that. I think there's something to be said for that. I think it's pretty dope, in the Atlanta area, where we will jump on the Beltline, or places where you can go out and we have a river that goes through the city, Chattahoochee. It's urban fishing is a thing. It's not that big vest, waders, boots, the whole, you see people with hats on and chains, and people out here just, having their own swag to it, and getting out here in the water and enjoying just like everybody else. They're just different people. You know what I mean? And so everybody's just making it, and they're still out here and being responsible, from fish handling to how they are cleaning the outdoors and all those types of things, and not being wasteful and just throwing stuff on the ground and stuff, and just being good stewards. So all of those things, just a continuation of those, and just people being open-minded with the diversity within the different types of people that fly fish, or the way that they are, within themselves, of how they fly fish, if that makes sense.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Now, the big question. So our campaign is called Be What You Don't See. What does that phrase mean to you personally?
Yeah, I've been really thinking about that question. I remember seeing the name of the campaign, and, I think I am what we don't see. Like, my boys are what we don't see. Blackwater's team is what we don't see. Mother, those women, those BIPOC ladies are what we don't see. Women in general fly fishing is what we don't see. Urban fishing, people in the city going out and fishing, finding places and recreating on water responsibly. That's what we don't see. And so that's what we're passionate about. Being a part of that narrative, helping with the education behind that, helping people find their space and find and realize how they can be safe, or that there is safety and accessibility in the outdoors. That's what we're passionate about.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. This has been so amazing. One thing that kind of keeps coming back to me is, earlier I had made mention about how I have heard you talk about your dad being a hero and creating this amazing path and eye-opening experience for you and your brothers. And it was just who he was. It was just what he did. And wanting to make sure that you guys were exposed to all the things, all the opportunities that are out there. And then how you're doing this with your sons and helping other young men and boys by being a scoutmaster. And I made mention about how that's beautiful. And this is completely outside of this interview, but I think what you're doing is, again, I'm single, not married, no children right here. But I find that level of commitment from parents and the dedication, just creating that safe space. And so that your boys' blinders go from here to just, they're off. I just think it's just gorgeous, man. So Nick, just keep being an awesome parent, keep being an awesome role model, and for other men in the community, and for them to see what you're doing so much more than what excellence outdoor gear and beer is providing. Like, you and yourself, you're just a role model. So, mad props.
Thank you so much. It's funny you say all this. You have me to think about, maybe about an hour ago, I was talking to my mom. She was like, do you think you're addicted to this? I was like, we can't help but be addicted. Absolutely. Like, we want everybody. She was like, are you addicted to getting out and getting people into the outdoors? And I'm like, hey, I think I got a problem. We want people, fly fishing in some ways to me is therapy, to stand in the creek. And it's I don't hear, and I know we've been talking about like this last half or portion of this interview, like even urban fishing, but there's something to be said about standing in a creek and it's quiet. You hear the water running and you see like the hatch and all these bugs flying around, and it's different than the city space that we're accustomed to. And so when you experience that and it's something different and you get the tranquility or the peaceful or it's soothing, it's calming, it's relaxing. And so I teach K-5 music, and kindergarten through fifth grade can be pretty lively at times. And there are times when the day is done and the last kid gets on the bus or gets in the car and drives off. And I'm like, whew, oh my gosh, that was a long day. I can't think of doing anything except going a mile down the road and pulling over and walking up to this little pond in this neighborhood and putting a fly on and casting it in the water and pulling out even just the sunfish, like a little brim or something, which happened today. Got off work. I said, man, I don't feel like that, man. Tough. But we have our challenges, right? We have challenging days sometimes with any job. And so just to be able to like drive down the road, man, I actually have my fly rod on the back of my truck. Let me go down here and cast. And second or third cast in, I'm pulling out a fish. I'm like, yeah, man, that was cool. And then I just sit there a little longer and just watch the fish rise and look at them in the water and just see geese around and different birds and things like that. I'm just like, man, it's therapy. So yeah, I'm addicted to getting people to experience that for themselves, because that is awesome for me. So I want people to know about that.
Yeah. Everyone thinks that when you hear fly fishing that you've got to be up in the mountains or you've got to be in Montana and it's got to look like Brad Pitt out and the river runs through and all.
Right.
Or grumpier old men ice fishing and
right, yeah.
But being able to adapt and find your cut of water. That's what it's about.
But yeah, check us out, Outdoor Gear and Beer. We do a lot of education-based stuff locally in the Southeast, but we also travel as well. And we would love to speak at any engagement. I love to talk if you haven't seen that already. So,
boy, do you.
Yeah.
Well, I will say you've always got something good to say. So
I feel like I do.
that swings the vote to a completely welcomed.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this. I mean, there's always good cooking in the South. And my wife, Amanda,
I have kept you so late. And we have covered many things that were not on my list. And I appreciate you so much being quick to the feet, answering, being honest, being upfront, reminding us of your check.
Yeah.
How's that, by the way?
It's great. Yeah, I like how cold. Yeah, it's a crisp. It's a sour for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't taste any blackberry. Yeah, there is blackberry in there. I can taste blackberry, strawberry. I need new glasses. There's some hazelnut and maple in there as well.
Okay.
And marshmallow. I don't taste the marshmallow, but that might just be some of the sweetness that is in there.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't, like, it's on a hot day, it'll be on point.
I'd grab that blackberry and I'd hold on to it tight. I'm like, please don't let me taste a marshmallow up in here. Well, again, folks, this is Nick Brooks with Outdoor Gear and Beer, based in the beautiful state of Georgia, and with a long, far reach to many other states across the country. So we thank you for joining us again this evening for our August I Fish, I Belong, Be What You Don't See. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Woo!
Bam!
Pew, 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 pew.
Hey, out. Pew, 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 pew.